Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout.
It's about to go down.
Yes. You are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports Disorder. We might get a little hostile tonight, like Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White. You know, coming off of Game 7, OKC and San Antonio, the intensity. Check out my socials so you can see me down at the Riverwalk. Check out the honking. But first, like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things. Do all the good things. Liquid Death in hand. Blueberry today. You know, we are everywhere you get your podcast. Check out Say Less, Say More. Let's get right to it. So Saturday night, big Game 7, right? The best 2 words in sports. And it did not disappoint. So right before the game, you know, I had made a video where I was talking about, I just want to see what's going to happen tonight. You know, is OKC going to press the issue? Because from my vantage point, you know what I mean? Like, they were just afraid to attack Wemby. And I get it. Who wants to get their shot blocked? Who wants to get dunked on? Ain't that right, Chet? But, you know, but at the end of the day, it's one of those things that is just a part of playing the sport of basketball. If you've never had your shot blocked, if you've never been dunked on, then you just weren't on the court, right? You're getting paid millions of dollars. Cities are dependent on you. The least you can do is give effort and act like you want to be there, right? So when I look at OKC, you know, they were dead in the water once J-Dub was gone. So, you know, because going back to Game 1, you know, and I made the comment about how in Game 1, he got to the bucket at will. He just made up his mind, I'm going to get there. I don't care about a Wemby, Bimby, or Simby. I'm going to the hole. And nobody stopped him. Game 1, right? So, obviously, A.J. Mitchell going down is a big deal. Now, before I go any further, this is not one of those moments of, hey, OKC would have won if they weren't injured. That's not what this is about. It's just deducing and having a conversation, right? So once A.J. Mitchell went down, in addition to J-Dub, not only did OKC lose their second leading scorer, but they lost their second ball handler, their secondary ball handler. So SGA is fully equipped to run the point. You know, he averaged about 9 assists in this series, so that's not the issue. You know, the issue is that there's no one to take that pressure off. You know, so not only, it's one thing when I can tell you, hey, you know what? Go out there, get us 30 points. If you're getting doubled, kick it out to the open man. That's one set of rules of engagement. On the flip side of that, what if I tell you, hey, I need 35 from you, and I need you to create shots for these guys that cannot create for themselves? Whole different game plan, right? So I say all that to say SGA's an MVP. And he showed up in Game 7 the way that an MVP should until he didn't, right? The last couple of minutes of the game, you can criticize him. But what came first, the chicken or the egg? You know, he kept them in the game to get to that point. Cason Wallace stepped up to the plate and said, I'll come along with you. And they almost pulled it off. But what happened? Now, and I'm not even trying to be disrespectful, but I can't remember your name right now. But we were arguing about Chet the other day. And you were telling me Oh, how could you think that he was going to have a good series? What up, Rez? How could you think he was going to have a good series against the Spurs? Well, one, because he finished second in Defensive Player of the Year. Two, because Wemby has put all eyes on him. So the least you can do is respond, right? You can miss shots. I was trying to find your name. Sorry, y'all, but you know what I mean? I was gonna give you a shout out on here, but I can't get down to the message. I got too many mentions. Nah, not yet, Rez. He coming through. But you know, potato. There you go. Potato on TikTok. Where's Chet? You know what I'm saying? Because I was told that Chet was doing his job. I can tell you with 100% certainty, in fact, that Chet was not doing his job. Now, before you even get to the rest of the series, just looking at Game 7, right? 2 shots, both in the first quarter. He played 33 minutes. He had to be benched in the fourth quarter because of how ineffective he was. You know, that's right, Rez. There you go. That's right. You know what I'm saying? Biggest movement since Dipset. But you know, like, Chet left a lot to be desired. But I'm appalled right now because all I heard today, whether it was on TV, whether it was on podcast, whether it was just talking to people in the same room as me, and everybody's basically saying, trade Chet. That is not the answer. You know what I'm saying? Don't pull the bitch move that the Warriors pulled, right? Because Game 7 came and went, and, you know, and there's Mr. Logical right on time. You know what I'm saying? Like, we going to get him in here in a minute. But, you know, like, Game 7, right? The Warriors had a chance to beat the Cavaliers to avoid giving up the 3-1 lead. Steph Curry threw that behind the back pass to Clay, and that's when I knew they were doomed. So what happened there was the Warriors lost, and they decided, you know what? We're going to go get Kevin Durant.
Yeah,
when all you needed, Mr. Logical's in the building, y'all, cool, calm, and collected. But they went and got Kevin Durant, right? Ultimate bitch move, because all they needed was somebody that was a little bit better than Harrison Barnes. That's all they needed. It was a bitch move. What do you want me to say?
Came into?
Yes.
On a happy Monday? Bitch
Yes.
move, 7 minutes into the
Bitch
show?
move. Yes. Bitch move Monday.
With death?
You know what I'm saying? But it was bitch move Sunday because they didn't even let Monday come. They ran into the parking lot and called this man crying in the parking lot. But you know, but all they needed was somebody a little bit better than Harrison Barnes. Somebody that could be a little bit more consistent. So, Mr. Logical, what I'm saying is it is not time to trade Chet. You know what I'm saying? Even though Chet tried to put himself on the Summer Jam screen. But it's not time to trade him. You just need some other pieces to fill out. You needed your team not to be hurt. And again, I'm not saying that the Thunder win this series if J-Dub and AJ Mitchell are there. But that takes some of that relief off of Chet. What's your reaction to Game 7?
I believe they win. They win if Chet takes 9 shots.
Okay.
If he goes 4 for 9, I think that makes him more aggressive defensively. I think those 9 shots, let's imagine that, I don't like to do imagining, but like Wemby's going to be defending him 3 to 4 of those 9 shots. Maybe get a cheap, foul on the elbow, seeing the ball go through the hoop. Because when he missed those 2 free throws after he got dunked on, I was like, okay. But then I'm watching the game, and it was like, Chet hasn't taken a shot in the second half. It was like 4 or 5 minutes had gone by in the third. One of the commentators mentioned it. And then the fourth started, and they said he hadn't taken a shot in the second half. And then he got a pass on the wing, like right on the wing. Somebody was in the corner. He faked it, set up like he was going to shoot, and then just dribbled and passed out to the guy in the corner anyway. I think it might have been like Dort or Case and Wallace or something like that. But it was like, dog, on the pump fake, now you elevate. There's only one dude on the floor that can contest your jumper at its apex, and that's Wemby. And even with that, Wemby doesn't really jump that high. He's just really lengthy. I think Chet's a little bit more athletic than Wemby. He's definitely lighter. So I think you could have got that shot off no matter who closed out on you. It just, you could tell he had the yips. But, I mean, Casey Wallace went for like 12 or 14 points in the fourth. I thought, then the reason I had picked OKC was because I feel as if a lot of guys for their role also have a green light to shoot the rock. And Casey Wallace was on. Like I say, he put up 14 points in the fourth. They still were down. SGA was exhausted. And Chet just still was like, even when he was on the bench, like, dog, you're an all-star. You won a championship last year. You signed a $200+ million contract. And in the closing minutes, you're not in your coach's ear like, yo, put me back in. You're just sitting there watching. Literally, you're literally watching your season end when you are the second or third best player on your team. And, you know, if you want to call J-Dub the third, he's not there. So you got your guy out there solo, Casey Wallace out there playing unconscious, and you can't get a part of that. It just, it was odd to me that went down that way.
So Rez brought up the point that I was about to bring up next. You know what I mean? They had Wemby with 5 fouls with about 7 minutes left in that game. 8
minutes left. And Casey Wallace was coming up the side. I'm like driving to his chest. Even if he blocks it, it was him and Wemby on the fast break, and he pulled it back. I'm like, yo, you got him at 5 fouls. This was the possession right after the 5th foul, too. So it was a rebound and a run out. I'm like, just drive it into Wemby's chest. Because either way, he's gonna try to avoid getting the 6th foul, but he's gonna want his hand in the cookie jar. He's gonna want to get the block anyway. Drive it right into his chest. Well, at that point, his pelvis, because like he's a foot to chase up, but like literally drive right at his hip, drive right at him to where he has to avoid you, and now you got a free layup, and they pulled it back out, missed the jumper, and then that
now,
was it.
With that being said, let me talk to the MVP real quick. You know what I'm saying, Mr. MVP. You know, Mr. Logical and I sit up here all the time, and we talk about more so on the coaching side. You know, teams react to how their coach react. If their coach panics, the team kind of panics. You know, if the coach is kind of, you know, smoothing out, the team will follow that lead. With SGA, it's the same thing that makes him great that doomed him in Game 7. It's that he never has any urgency. He never has any reaction. He never has any moment that it looks like, hey, guys, it's go time, or hey, guys, we need to get it together. He's just the same way all game long. And at times that works, right? It keeps the ship steady. You're not going to overreact to a bad call. You're not going to overreact to missing a couple of shots in a row. But the problem is that when you get to the end of the game and the game is on the line, there's not that sense of urgency, so you have to force the issue. So I say that to say when they were down 6, you know, late in that game, you know, Harper had hit the big shot. You know, SGA came down and forced a bad 3. You know what I'm saying? That was just, and this wasn't the first time in the series that he did this. You know what I mean? Like, he gets real, I don't want to say he panics, but he knows that the game is on the line and now it's time to make a play. But the problem is if you had that mentality 3 minutes ago, maybe the game would be tied right now. You know what I'm saying? Versus trying to come back at the last minute.
The most recent LeBron Game 6, Boston, the 45, 15-5 game, you can see it in his face. I'm going out on my shield. Dwayne Wade in the finals, with his first finals when he beat Dallas, you could tell.
He was like, I'm going out with the refs.
Yeah, call it what you want. He was still out there falling around. Kobe, when they asked him, like, you going to smile? He was like, smile for what? It's not done. It's an intensity, I think, that kind of matriculates through the entire team. Shea should have gone to Chet, like, yo, dog, you've only taken 2 shots. Get to the bucket. If he blocks it, he blocks it. The man leads the world in blocks right now. It's inevitable. Attack him. And I think OKC kept playing so passive. Like I said, they kept throwing that angle pass to the corner every time he was in the paint. Dylan Harper was picking it off every time. I just felt like they got passive. And San Antonio was like, at the end of game 5, I think Wemby whispered, like, listen, dog, you get suspended or you get fined. I got you. But go ahead, elbow old boy in his back. What's the boy name? TikTok dude. McCain. He won the same after that elbow. He had 24, 25, maybe 27 points in game 5. Game 6 and 7 was not the same. That elbow to his back, maybe it did something. Knocking SGA down in game 6 a lot. I mean, Carter Bryant was basically out there like Sherman, Cam Chancellor. They were just running into him. But I think maybe that took a toll on him. But I didn't like how he wasn't in the game to start the 4th. And I was sitting there watching. I was like, Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, Shaq, Patrick Ewing, Reggie. I don't think any of these guys are sitting to start the 4th. Game 7 at home, down. I think they were down 7 or 8 at that point.
I think all of them sat too much. Wemby sat too much. You know what I mean? SGA sat too much. But at least with the Thunder, to your point, they have the bench, generally speaking, that you can get away with that a little bit, but just not in game 7.
I'm not doing that 12 minutes
season on the line.
In the season, 12 minutes left in the season. Like, yo, dog, you can get an IV in the back.
Yeah, and then
we have all the stuff you need to re-energize you 45 feet from here in the locker room. You go out there, exhaust yourself, Chet, stop being a bitch, go out there and play basketball. But you need an old head. And they were talking about guy like Plumlee and Bisbach. Yeah. So they were talking about a 15-year vet. You talked about Harrison Barnes. They had Caruso, and Caruso was out there showing you, hey, man, if you got to snatch him out the air and borderline flagrant foul him, do it. Because he did it 3 games in a row. I don't think anybody else understood that. Even Lou Dort was pretty much non-existent in game 7.
No, Lou Dort was non-existent. He was non-existent, period.
He hit some threes. He hit the three to put him up 1. But as far as the thing that he brings you, the Draymond Green defensive energy, that pesky over the line kind of activity, even none of that. At least at some point throughout the series, I would expect him to toss Wemby into the photographers at least once.
Well, that's why I told you
that. That's all you can really give me. Give me that.
Well, that's why I told you after game 4, I think it was, I said, yo, I'm not playing Dort the rest of the series. Because his offense isn't good. So think about the Knicks, right? They're about to play the Knicks in the finals.
Yeah.
Josh Hart does enough on offense to where even if he's not scoring, he's setting these screens, he's getting assists, he's grabbing rebounds, he's doing this and doing that. That's all Lou Dort does is go out there and play football. You know what I mean? He doesn't provide you anything else. And if his shot is not falling, for me at least, you're just wasting possessions. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that Jarrett McCain has to play 38 minutes or anything like that by any means.
Think Lou Dort,
but you got Joe and Wiggins too.
More confident, I think. But the same goes without saying. I think the confidence. Lou Dort could be 0 for 6 from 3. And if the score is 68-66 at San Antonio, and he gets that ball, he's trying to take the 1-point lead. There's no doubt in his mind that I'm putting this shot up, and it's going in. Sometimes that is enough. With Josh Hart, like I said, with the Knicks, all those guys have such a pivotal role, and I think everybody embodies it to maximum level degree. OKC, those guys have that same role. It's just Hartenstein was getting silly fouls. Dog, just let the layup go. Just let it happen. We need you to be in here to get rebounds. We need you in the game because I think game 3, he had about 15, 16 rebounds. That he probably had 16 for games 5, 6, and 7 total. So just keep yourself in the game. I just felt like there was a lack of understanding the sense of urgency and how to apply it in real time. you said SGA put up the bad three because I think that was his interpretation of urgency. But it's like, no, we got to get a good shot quickly, not a quick shot that hopefully goes in. But I think a veteran coach, a veteran player, someone would have been able to kind of convey that. And I just believe there was a lot of moments where even at the end of the, I believe it was in the half of Game 7, where they had, like SGA had the bad turnover. It's like, yo, they are trapping him when Vassell and Castle are on the floor. Whoever is being guarded by Vassell or Castle, however it works out, get away from SGA. Just get away from him. Because every time that guy they knew SGA wasn't going to be able to give it up to the guy that was the OKC player that was being guarded by Vassell or Castle. And he would get right across the line and they would blitz him. I'm like, stop trying to do that dribble handoff right there. Just
remember when you were a little kid?
Moving. They kept forcing it to him.
Remember when you were a little kid and you were playing pickup ball, you know what I mean? Like either you or your teammate brought there and you were like, yo, get him away from me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Get over there. Like, don't bring your defender over to me. You know what I mean? And that was the other part of this was that, like, I don't understand why Mark Daigneault didn't switch it up, like from the standpoint of, you know, when the Spurs were trapping SGA, a lot of the times they would do it as soon as he got across half court. So it's like
across that line.
Yeah, so it's like you already know that's coming. Like once they do it the first time, you know they're going to keep doing it because it's effective. You know, like there was one play where SGA, I don't even think he could see. That might be the turnover you were talking about. And he threw the ball.
Yeah, when he threw it right to the free throw line. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it's like, how do you not, you know, have a Caruso or somebody on the floor and just say, hey, just stay across from SGA. When he comes across half court, be ready to go. And then you got two defenders. Right, and you got two defenders on Shea already. So now just drive and somebody's open on the wing if you want to make that kick out pass.
If you bring Hartenstein up, whoever's guarding Hartenstein isn't as athletic or defensively as good as Castle or Vassell or Dylan Harper or Carter Bryant. It's like now that guy can't do the same thing. SGA can beat that trap. And then he can run his guy back into the screen and force a switch. And now whoever's guarding Hartenstein, even if it's Wemby, give me Wemby on SGA 34 feet from the hoop. I'll take that matchup because if he could get on him, he can get the pass to anyone. And there's no one protecting the paint.
And the media,
I just thought it was like a little bit more elementary, and I just don't understand why they kept going to that.
Yeah, I think the media and Twitter won this series for the Spurs too, because once the OKC flopping and all that became a topic of discussion, they just let the Spurs play Royal Rumble the rest of the series. Like there was times like in Game 7 even, you know, Keldon Johnson, my other Kentucky Wildcat, he was all over the back, you know, all over everybody's back. He grabbed Caruso one time and just straight up tossed him on the floor. And you know, no call. Absolutely. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that to say that the refs cheated for San Antonio at all. But the course of how the series was called was influenced by a lot of that outside talk. But Mr. Logical, so what I was getting into was, is there a move that OKC needs to make? Like, is there something that they because I know Hartenstein has an option that they're probably he's not gonna take it. Then he'll probably sign for less because they're near the apron. You know, I've heard people say trade J-Dub. I've heard people say trade Chet. You know, I've heard people say get Dort out of there. So is there something that you feel OKC needs to do, or is this just a matter of, hey, our guys just got to be healthy and we're right there?
Yeah, if, like I said, their guys are healthy, and like I said, I firmly believe if Chet put up 9 shots and shot a few more free throws, the game's completely different. But he was such a non-factor, and it was clear. So I don't think they need to make a move. I think the team is young. I don't know what their money situation is looking like because I know.
Well, that's what I was talking about with the apron. Yeah,
getting 700 million I mean, I think you do something. I think you probably could move Lou Dort and bring in another guy that's strictly 3-and-D. I'm pretty sure those
Yeah.
those
So
guys are
right
available.
now, right
Maybe
now,
you get a traditional point guard to come off the bench.
so right now, Hartenstein has a $28.5 million team option, and Dort has a $17.7 million team option. So I'm letting Dort walk. I'm signing
Correct.
Hartenstein for less, and I'm letting one of, if not both of, Joe and Wiggins go, and then we'll see what happens with Case and Wallace because it sounds like he's ready to get paid.
Yeah, but that leaves you room to bring in a traditional point guard to come off the bench. I think you have a baller in McCain.
I've heard people say trade AJ Mitchell too.
I think he's probably sought after his performance against the Lakers. I could see out like if he would have kind of given you that in the San Antonio series and you would have lost, I think it would have probably increased the stock a little bit. But I could see making a couple moves, but I wouldn't do anything drastic. Their big young three that they have, I would keep. Like I said, I would try to keep Hartenstein just because Chet's not going to be a big body that can do what Hartenstein.
Yeah, that's why I don't know if people are just trying to make content, but you know what I'm saying? Like all day it's been Giannis. You know what I mean? Like, and
Giannis
that is not
to OKC.
Yeah,
this is the problem. And we talk about how you talked about the KD move was a soft move. I didn't like the move, especially because you're a couple of 3-pointers from Harrison Barnes connecting on these threes, and you're winning Game 7, and you're back-to-back champs, and the greatest season in NBA history. So going out and getting arguably, a top 10, top 10, 15 player all time to add to another guy who's arguably top 15, top 10 when you already just had 73 wins. I think trying to get Giannis to OKC pretty much the same thing. And it changes the total dynamic of how you play basketball. Because now you're Giannis dependent. You can't go fast. You can't go young. I don't know. I don't think you need it. And people in any
I just don't think him and SGA are a good fit together.
It's not even if it's a good fit. I'm just sick of the fantasy basketball coming to reality. And then every single year, pundits talk about the quality of the games and how teams don't want to watch this and people don't want to watch this. But yet, every year you're formulating these plans before the finals are even over about how to get the next upset superstar to join another team. I just think the sentiment is just poor. Like, let Giannis figure out what he's going to do in Milwaukee. And if he's really that guy, trade him straight up for Zion Williamson. And you can go down to New Orleans and see if you can turn them around. Like, I don't want Giannis to try to figure out. I don't want anyone in basketball to try to figure out how to get Giannis on the Lakers. I don't want anyone trying to figure out how to get Giannis in OKC, how to get Giannis to Houston with KD. And I'm like, I don't want any of that math being even thought about. If he wants to leave Milwaukee, cool. Go to Orlando. Maybe Detroit. I give you Detroit because they need a second guy that'll give you Cade and Giannis. I think 2 guys on a team when you want to be an upper echelon team, I think that's good enough. But trying to pair him with a team that just won a championship, it's like, I don't know. It's just disingenuous, considering they're going to complain about it all year long about how these other teams are unwatchable.
What? I had enough time talking about losers. Let's talk about these winners. So on Wednesday night, down here in the Alamo, in come those New York Knickerbockers. I said Nick Kerr. You know what I mean? And like Steve Kerr's son, right?
Yep.
So this is a rematch of the 1999 NBA Finals, and then of course you know what's cool about that too, Mr. Logical. Wemby's the same age that Tim Duncan was in that series. This is a rematch of the NBA Cup final from this year. You know what I mean? So question number 1, does this make the NBA Cup a success?
You trolling me.
I'm not. That's a serious question.
I mean, who won it? The Lakers won it.
Lakers won it the first year.
Did Milwaukee win
Did
it?
Milwaukee? Yep, Milwaukee won it, and then the Knicks this year.
Then the Knicks. I'm not anti NBA Cup though.
I am.
It's just I think it's less of a burden than I originally thought it was going to be. Like when you hear about it as an idea, as a concept, and then it's applied, it's like, okay. I think the biggest thing about it is like you hate the floor, but it's real games.
I hate the whole purpose of it.
I like
for me,
I don't put too much credence in the trophy in and of itself, but just the pre-Christmas kind of. But like I say, the league has to do these things to make it interesting because the people who talk basketball shit on the product. We talk about this all the time. Phil Simms doesn't say anything negative, even if Caleb Williams throws up a Hail Mary prayer ball in the second quarter. He doesn't say, this is why you shouldn't let these guys out of college, blah, 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 paint their nails. But if Jared McCain shoots a bad three, the first thing they're going to say on these things is like, oh, this we got all these flamboyant guys, all these guys worried about making TikToks, can't play the game of basketball like how we played in the 90s. And then that becomes a narrative. Phil Simms never says, hey, in the 80s, you'd never throw a pass like that. They don't say that in NFL games. So the NBA had to do something to make it interesting. I like the floor. I think that's kind of a cool look. I like that guys do compete because it is like a thing. It's like playing against a guy when you get traded from one team to another. Yes, you want to go out and score 30 any given night of the week if you're a scorer. But the team that traded you, it means a little more. So for the NBA to be like, hey, let's throw a little carrot out here. You know, a few $1 million in prize money between a couple of teams. Let's see if it means a little bit more for that. And then like, it works.
So a couple things, you know what I mean? If the NBA wants to make the league more interesting, you know, how about you enforce the rules that you have on the books? Call a travel every so often.
They gotta call.
You know what I mean? Like, how about you? How about you stop calling soft ass flagrant fouls? How about you actually give technicals and fine people for flopping? You know, like it was on the books a couple of years ago. Those are the things that will contribute to the games being more interesting. But also, it's an 82-game basketball season, and people got lives. So, you know what I mean? So that's a part of it, too. But the reason that I don't like the NBA Cup is I think I would like it if it wasn't associated with the regular season. Like, if it was just like its own little tournament at some point, I think I could live with that. But, like, I don't know. It's just a gimmick to me. But anyway, it's
a gimmick. But it does, like I said, it does. It's just a carrot. It's just a carrot for entertainment, and you got to have it every once in a while.
But let's talk about these here teams that played for the NBA Cup that are now playing for the NBA Finals. Mr. Logical, who wins, how many games, and why?
All right. So, I'm a logical guy. I think the Knicks, you know, historic run that they're on, you would say they have to come back to the mean. I
was going to say that.
That's one of your staple. I know that's one of your staple statements.
I was going to say that
on the show. But I think to your point that I've kind of made for you, I think the height and the size of the San Antonio defenders might make that more of a reality. And that's what I'm concerned about. I think that everybody, every guard, every wing player that San Antonio plays is probably 3 to 4 inches taller than Jalen Brunson at a minimum. So I think if they have him listed as 6'1" or 6'2", I think every guy that they bring that San Antonio brings.
Hey, all them dudes look at Jalen Brunson and go, he said I was overlooking him, but he was outstanding straight.
Yeah. So that, I mean, he's crafty. He's a strong guy. So I think he'll be able to do more with the contact. What SGA was trying to create. I think Jalen will be able to better, he'll get to the free throw line more. But it's just, that's the only thing I'm concerned with. Because I think everywhere else is pretty much even. I don't think the San Antonio 6'5", 6'7" guys are more offensively like just weaponized than the Knicks. I just think defensively they could cause more problems for the Knicks' best scorer versus anyone defensively for the Knicks causing for San Antonio's best scorer. That's the toss-up. Now I'm still thinking about, I want to say Knicks in 6 because I didn't like a lot of the games that San Antonio played against OKC. I felt like there was one game where Wemby had 7 rebounds. Hell, even in game 7, I think the first half, OKC had like 8 or 9 offensive rebounds. So I don't like that. I don't like that aspect of it. Mitchell Robinson has in his pinky. I don't know if he's going to stay out because I'm like, if you're the Knicks, it's like, yo, dog, if you can grab the ball, we'll deal with the pinky. Like, just shoot the free throws with your left hand. Like, I mean, you're 40% anyway.
So when I first thought of this series, I thought about the things that weren't. So, for example, San Antonio in the second round, and look, I'm not trying to dismiss anything that anybody accomplished, but they played about a 60% of an Anthony Edwards. There was no DiVincenzo. Then you get to the Western Conference Finals, J-Dub hurt, and then, AJ Mitchell goes down. You look at the Knicks, right? They got a hobbled Joel Embiid, in the second round, even though Philly was coming off of that win against Boston, he was compromised. You know what I mean? But then also, when I go back to the first round, because I'll be up front, I picked Atlanta to beat the Knicks. You know what I'm saying? And this is where the issue is for the Knicks in this series. Because the reason that I picked Atlanta was because SGA's cousin, I ain't never calling him by his name again. He just SGA cousin. You know what I'm saying? SGA's cousin and Dyson Daniels, I was like, hey, they're going to make life hard for Jalen Brunson. Like this is a defensive player of the year candidate, most improved player. They're going to make life hard on him. This is the difference, though. The Spurs have Castle, who should be on the Cincinnati Bengals. They have Vassell's long arms.
Pac-Man.
They have Harper. But then they also have the front court that Atlanta didn't have from a size standpoint. Because Atlanta's problem was they didn't have anybody over 6'9". You know what I mean? So the Knicks have to deal with those perimeter defenders. And you got the giant down there. So that's where it's kind of iffy, right? So Karl Anthony Towns becomes important.
But I don't think their front court. I don't think the San Antonio front court, because unless I'm missing something, I see Cornette coming in for Wemby. Everybody else feels like big guards or big small forwards.
No, but they negate a lot of what the Knicks have, is what I mean. So like Mikal Bridges, right? He's what, 6'8", 6'9", but he's got those long arms. Anunoby with the long arms. Shamet coming off the bench. Is pretty. He's been playing really good defense in the playoffs.
San Antonio was giving up a lot of open looks.
They were
other teams' best ball handler, and the way the Knicks were shooting the ball in these last 2.5 rounds of the NBA playoffs, they can't do that same thing. You trapped because Jalen was giving the ball up. Game 1. I know we on here. Game 1.
No. You walked right into my trap.
And he had like 14 assists a second game. I saw a video breakdown the other day of a guy that was breaking down the Knicks, like just some action, some back screen action they were running, and they ran it 3 different ways in 3 different rounds. So against Atlanta, they ran it where like Josh Hart would set a screen. This is like a rudimentary breakdown of it, but it was like Josh Hart would set a screen. Anunoby would get the ball in the corner and he'd be open for the shot. So they saw that on film, and then against the 76ers, Josh Hart would run a set that screen, and then he would slip it. So then he's going to the basket for layups, or like it's swing, and it's another open shot. But the action looked the same. Like, okay, they're going to run that play where Anunoby gets in the corner. So then the defense overplays it. Josh Hart gets 27 points. Like in the Philly series, he got like 27 points that game. So then against Cleveland, they had the same thing. Neither one of them slipped it. And then like Jalen Brunson just went around. Like they thought it was going to be like the same thing. But then Anunoby would step up, set the screen on Brunson's guy, and then Brunson would come off left-handed, shoot an open shot. So I think Mike Brown's kind of taken all of his experience as a coach, what he learned in Golden State, and I think he has the personnel, and they're playing like that. That's the difference. I think the Knicks can get those open looks off, and if they can keep Wemby, if they can make Wemby a jump shooter where they don't go in early, I think Knicks in 6 is a real possibility, because like I said, we saw the bad San Antonio playoff games, and we saw what it looked like. And what it was like Wemby wasn't going off for 30 points. Everyone kind of like, just they weren't as explosive as a team.
So I'm glad you brought that up. Couple of things. So one, you know what I mean? They were also playing against the defending champions. And you know what I mean? The best team in the league, basically, obviously before injuries and all that. So that's one thing, the level of competition compared to what the Knicks were playing. For two,
but the Knicks are playing like the best team in history.
Well, no, but wait, because remember, it was not that long ago, Mr. Logical. The Knicks were down 22, to the Cleveland Cavaliers, right? And I say that to say the first 2 games of that series, they were coming off of rest just like they're coming off right now. And those first 2 games, they shot awful from 3. The problem was, you know what I mean? And I'm going to get there, Rez. Hold on. You know what I'm saying? But the problem is that Cleveland plays stupid. You know what I mean? And Cleveland couldn't take advantage because they wouldn't keep Mobley involved. So in game 1, for example, the Knicks started off something like 2 for 16 from 3. And that's how they got into that hole. Game 2 came. Jalen Brunson had 2 points at halftime. The Knicks were still winning by 4. You know what I mean? If the Knicks
had 6 points.
Yeah, if Jalen Brunson has 2 points at halftime, the Spurs are up 17. You know what I'm saying? And and I don't know if you're making up that ground against them. So respond to Rez for me. What you think about this?
Every team the Spurs played was better than every team the Knicks played. Spurs first round was remind me again. Portland, nah. Second round was Minnesota, hobbled, no second scorer. That I think the Western Conference Finals, Eastern Conference Finals, it was a definitive advantage where the Spurs can showcase, hey, the team we played was better than the team you played. But I think the first 2 rounds are a wash.
So I think
because Minnesota had Ant on a pitch count the first game, and I think the second game was supposed to be the same thing. He just stayed out there. He's supposed to play like less than 30 minutes or something like that. He just stayed because it was close enough, and then he felt like they felt like it needed to win. Yeah, but I think the Spurs. I think the Western Conference. They were better. This thing, the way that the Knicks are playing right now, you got to think that they would beat anybody. They closed out their last 3 series. First round, 51 points. I think the second round was 37 points. And then the last round was like 37 points. So for a team to be playing that well, I don't care who your opponent is. If you got a guy coming off the bench shooting 10 for 11 from 3 in Eastern Conference Finals in a series, coming off the bench, that's a different level. Mikal Bridges was shooting so many tough shots. Even if it's well defended, there's nothing you can do for a good shot, even if it's well defended. So I think they've been playing at a level. They're blowing people out.
So to your point about it, let's talk about the wash real quick, and then I'll wrap this up and we'll get back to the preview here.
Yeah.
So like Minnesota still had Ant along with probably the one person that could protect the rim against Wemby, or at least give him a little resistance, Gobert. They had that going for them. Whereas, like I said, the Knicks had a hobbled Embiid, and you were relying on Paul George.
That hobbled
no disrespect
Embiid
to Paul George.
just beat that hobbled Embiid. They just beat Boston.
Well, he didn't get hobbled until Game 7. Like, you know what I'm saying? When he got hit in the knee by Maxey.
He's always on it. He's always on the
fence. He was still, but look, so the Knicks, well, first of all, this finals, we're going to have a new champion for the 8th straight year, which is the longest stretch that we've gone through since 1975 to 1980. The Knicks, this is the point where Wemby comes in. Coming into this series, the Knicks lead the playoffs in points in the paint per game. So they're averaging about 53 points, which is ridiculous, 53 points per game in the paint. So I got to imagine that changes, right?
That has to change,
So now, where it could not change maybe is if Cat can knock down a few shots, you know what I'm saying? Because that was what I was going to ask you next. If you're each coach, who do you start on Cat? Who do you start on Wemby? Or do you let them play each other first?
I let them play each other first. Just to not get too technical. Just like, I got a 7'5" guy and a 7-foot tall guy, 6'11", 7 foot, whatever it is. That's the matchup. That's the matchup until I feel like it can't work or I can clearly see it will work. Because what are you gonna do? You're gonna put Anunoby on him? You can put Miguel Bridges on him?
I'm putting Anunoby
to start the game out. Yeah,
maybe not to start the game out. Maybe not to start the game out. But I think, I think that's where you end up, though.
Yeah, I'll start the big on the big, and then see how it looks. And like I said, I know Mitchell Robinson. The report came out that he was gonna miss some time with a broken pinky. Hey, you never know. He might be able to say, "Hey, man, take these two things together, numb me up. I can go out there and give you a body that." It's not about trust. It's about not over coaching. Just like, listen, go out there, do your job. And if it doesn't work, we adjust. But I don't want to have to, because at some point you're going to have to put them on Wemby. Just in whatever rotation, energy-wise, substitution, you're going to get them on him. I don't want to start it off where I got Wemby thinking, they're afraid to put their big on me. And now his confidence, because you could tell in games where he wasn't confident. He doesn't get a lot of rebounds. He doesn't fight through people. So if I put a big body like Cat on him or make him try to defend Cat far from the hoop, and if that's the case, now I'm the Knicks, I'm getting those 53 points in the paint. If he has to come out to 22 feet and guard Cat, and Cat's a willing passer. We talk about his points. He's normally a 23 and 12 guy. These playoff runs, he's probably been closer to 16, 8, but like 8 or 9 assists because the way that teams have been playing them. I just think the Knicks are understanding the ball moves faster than any defender. No matter how tall Wemby is, he can't defend the entire half of the floor if you put him in positions where he has to get pulled away from the hoop. And now with the Knicks having this much time off, I thought the rest was going to mean a little more because I thought the finals were going to start. I thought the Game 7 was going to be Sunday, and the finals are going to be Tuesday. I thought it was going to just be a couple of days rest for whoever won the Western Conference. But with it being, 2 days from now, I figured the rest is a wash because the Knicks just got a couple more practices in, and maybe a couple more longer night sleep.
Yeah, especially with the Spurs being young,
and they're at home. You know what I mean? So like they went from OKC to San Antonio almost immediately. That's 40 minutes. So they're in and out. Yeah.
So also one difference in this series as well is that you got Game 1 tomorrow, or I'm sorry, on Wednesday. You got game 2 is on Friday, so you maintain your every other day. Game 3 isn't until Monday. Then you go Wednesday, Saturday.
Really? I figured they would want Sunday night in the Garden, but I guess it's the Garden. You can do it any day.
Yeah, you do it any day of the week. Yeah, so it goes Friday. So Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday, and if there's a game 7, it would be that following Friday. So now this is where I think it helps the Spurs, right? Because for me, I felt that Wemby struggled because remember he was on a minutes count during the regular season. You know what I mean? So I think that it was one of those things where I think that every other day just caught up to him. You know what I'm saying? Because he had to play longer minutes than he was playing in the regular season. So he would have uneven performances. He would have that 41-24 in game 1, but then game 2 kind of sputter. Game 3 pick back up and then sputter. And then not talk to the media afterwards and all that kind of stuff. So I think having it spaced out a little bit helps the Spurs as well. I think the other thing that the Spurs are going to run into is the Knicks are going to run into is the quality. You know what I mean? So, you're going to get Landry Shamet off the bench. And if he continues his heater, you're in trouble, right? You got Deuce McBride. You got Jordan Clarkson, San Antonio native, who's going to
the
come
Knicks
out
got
and
Phil Jackson in the film session?
You know what I'm saying? Here you go. You know who he's talking about.
Yeah.
But you're coming off.
I think that's part of it, though. When you talk about Wemby, I think that philosophy of the Spurs, sit him down, don't panic. Hey, Luke, give us 4 good minutes. He got the chase down block.
Don't forget that block. Don't forget that block against Hartenstein.
And they put Wemby right back in. So it's like, I think just the Spurs manage, because I do believe that they were at a bit of a disadvantage against OKC because OKC, those guys, they're shooters, they're scorers. They go on these runs. Everyone shoots. Everyone just was ready, and they got tight. Hence why Chet only shot 2 shots. I think San Antonio just stayed to their physicality because you could take that anywhere. Physicality travels. That's why.
That's what I was going to say. A lot of times, the Garden works against the Knicks too. You know what I mean? More than it is an actual home court advantage. Like people want to play in the Mecca. They want to silence the New York fans. Spike Lee, the whole nine.
The Knicks can play. The Knicks can play a physical basketball game too. There's not a lot of finesse in their game. And so we talk about big market, small market.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it again later, too.
The Knicks might be I know it's New York, but I think people might be rooting a little bit more for the Knicks just because it's like an American team. And I think Wemby's kind of cocky. I don't think people really rock with Wemby like that. Too tough. I don't think it's a small market. I think people kind of looking at the Knicks like, whoa, look at these guys, especially if you know the Villanova history, the undersized, they're more underdogs than the Spurs are. Because
hold on. I got it on good authority right here. Fuck the Knicks. You know what I'm saying? How's that?
That's because you in San Antonio. You should say
no, it's not because I'm in San Antonio.
It's because baby, that's what we're doing. Don't make me look at the beanie. I turn this camera off the beanie. You know what's up. You know what's up when I get the beanie.
Even though you saw me out on the Riverwalk the other night, you know what I'm saying, honking and everything. You know what I'm saying? But I got it on good authority that is fuck the Knicks. But anyway, so I think
I'm going to the parade when they win.
So one thing that I did find funny though, because I forgot about this as I was going through my stats, you know what I mean, all that. I was like, yo, Jalen Brunson has a 61-point game against the Spurs. You know what I mean? But Wemby went 40-20 in that game, and the Knicks won that game. That was last season, not this season. But so there's no need to even look at the regular season here because when they played in the regular season, Wemby came off the bench. It was the whole you're not playing more than 25 minutes thing. I just think that the Spurs have grown up along these playoffs. And I think that the one thing that I would be afraid of, as someone that thinks that the Spurs is going to win this series, is coming out game one. Like, how do you come out game one? Because when they beat OKC, Wemby was ready for the parade. He was ready for the confetti. Like that was a lifetime achievement. You know what I mean? For him. That's what I'm afraid of.
NBA Finals. Did they blow their emotional load? Pause. In that, I doubt it, because they don't seem to play with a lot of ego. I know, like, Wemby's super cocky and confident. I understand that you have to be that if you're going to be the face of basketball for your country, because I believe he probably is one of those. Between him, I don't know what Gobert's impact.
You just going to disrespect Frank Ntilikina like that, huh?
Yeah, and Tony Parker.
Disrespecting Evan Fournier, huh?
French, yeah. So
don't you disrespect Boris Diaw?
Now I'm saying he's like a long line of tall, light-skinned French players that seem to take the league by storm every few years. So I understand like his level of confidence that he has going into each one of these games and these matchups. I just think that I don't think the Spurs lose out anything, because I think their physicality travels. I think the camaraderie and the joy I think the Knicks are playing with travels. So it's just a matter of, can you stay defensively sound if you're the Spurs, and if you're the Knicks, can you not panic when they inevitably go on their run and Champagne hits a couple of threes, and now the San Antonio crowd's rocking, and you're down 25-16 early in the first.
Yeah, and I was going to bring up.
Can you keep it going? I think the familiarity that these guys all have, and the lack of ego. I think it's a lack of ego on both teams. I don't think it's going to be a guy that goes into a press conference that says something like, "I got to have a good game for us to win." I just don't think a guy will say something like that.
And don't forget, this means a lot to Mike Brown. Like, he came up under Pop. You know what I mean? He's playing against De'Aaron Fox. It means a lot. You know what I mean? But also, I think Vassell is going to play a big key in this series, because he gets those J.R. Smith streaky moments. You know what I mean? Where he's either going to go 8 for 16 or 0 for 16, nothing in between. And
Correct.
You know what I mean? And to your point about Champagne, he was the one that really kept OKC at bay in Game 7. So the Knicks best beware where he is. And just like we said before the OKC series, make Champagne put the ball on the ground. That's how you handle that.
Don't let Dylan Harper do anything. Just don't let him do anything. Because
you ain't got no choice.
He hasn't made a mistake. I don't think I've seen him turn the ball over. I don't think I've seen it. Like, I imagine that he did, but I don't. I think he got called for a travel one time, and I was amazed. I'm like, wow, they called travel. But like, with the ball in his hand, it's like, it's a different level of what he's doing. Versus
his daddy has him well prepared.
His mom was his coach his whole life. Shout out to moms out there.
So
I know Father's Day this month, though. We'll get our flowers.
So my NBA 2K fans will appreciate this. I'm taking the Spurs in the real life manifestation of Jackson Baldwin. You know what I mean? Here we are. Spurs in 5.
Knicks in 6.
Knicks in 6, huh? Okay.
Knicks in 6.
Okay. You know, say okay. You know what I mean? But yeah, for those of you not in the know, there was a version of 2K. I want to say it was 2K21. You had Freddie Staples, Jackson Baldwin, and then you had like the big Jokic guy. And those were the top picks in the draft that you can go on and like develop your career with. And they come in instant stars and all that kind of stuff like that. But yeah, I got Spurs in 5. So, Mr. Logical, moving on. So, the Memphis Grizzlies are the only team that stood up against Adam Silver and his 3-2-1 proposal, which is kind of redundant anyway, because Adam Silver only does what the owners want him to. With the owners allow him to, even though he's the face and we shit all over him for these decisions. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like the Memphis Grizzlies are the only team that voted against this. And they voted against it because they got screwed. Because now that this rule is in place, they made this trade for Jaren Jackson with the Jazz. Now they're picking number 3. So next year, they can't pick. They can't get a top 5 pick because that'd be 3 years.
That's working on the assumption that the Jazz are going to be draft. They're going to be.
No, it is, but all it takes is an injury or two, and which is the problem with this rule, right? Because I was thinking about this earlier. Knock on wood. Now, first of all, this rule should be called the San Antonio Spur rule. Because they went out here and had rookie of the year galore, right? They had Wemby, they had Castle, they drafted Dylan Harper this year. He wasn't rookie of the year, but you get the point. And then my brain is not working right now, but they drafted somebody else too. But
they had another guy that was capable. That
might have been Vassell actually. But the point being is that the Spurs live in these drafts getting these star players. So my thought about it was, if I'm a small market team, why would I vote yes for this? You know what I mean? Because the number one thing that we talk about is ain't nobody going to Memphis Memphis. Ain't nobody going to Cleveland. And I mean, you can look at it through the lens right now as like, hey, we're the Cleveland Cavaliers. We just made the Eastern Conference Finals. That doesn't apply to us. Not right now. You know what I'm saying? But then my other thought was, knock on wood, that's where the knock on wood comes in. What if Wemby gets hurt next year? Or, SGA gets hurt next year, and one of these two teams that I just said goes to the play-in, and then they get into the draft lottery and ends up with a top 3 pick? What did you just accomplish?
And this is part of my argument for the tanking rules altogether. The tanking rules, I felt like they were implemented
Good call
to try to discourage something that was almost inevitable, because no matter what you do, how hard you play your tiny little hearts out, if you are the 2025-2026 Brooklyn Nets, you're not winning 35, 40 games. You're not going to be competitive night in and night out.
But why?
You don't have the talent.
But why don't they have the talent?
Trades. It wasn't because they tanked. They just made bad trades. They had bad ownership. They had bad GMs. And that's the problem for all the teams. I don't think the market size is indicative of how well you can manage a team. Yeah.
No, it's not.
It's hard. It's hard to sign a free agent. Yes. But are you willing to trade a few extra pieces to get Anthony Davis? Dallas did it. Washington did it.
Dallas, the big ass market. Washington, the big ass market.
Washington's not a big, like, I'm looking at them right now. I got it up right now. Yeah, they got Washington at 8.
Yes, that's a big market. There's 30 teams.
Okay, what do you think Phoenix is? What do you think Phoenix ranks in this market?
I would say Phoenix is probably 4th or 5th.
11.
Okay.
I'm saying, so it's like 11, Orlando's 13, Cleveland 17. So.
Yeah, but the difference is that Cleveland is in a location that nobody wants to go to, be in. Like, LeBron couldn't even get Bosh to come there. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, if I can't get Chris Bosh to come there, like, I'm suddenly going to get SGA to come there, or I'm going to get Giannis to willingly come there. I'm going to get Luka to willingly come there. I think not. You know what I mean? And that's the issue within itself, is that, because even to your point about the people shitting on the product, right? Whenever these finals and all this stuff are in these places that are not Miami, New York, so on and so forth, they get on TV and complain about where the finals are. You know what I mean? So like, you know what I mean? So from that standpoint, this draft is important to places like that. You know what I mean? Because that's the only way you're going to get your hands on these stars. You know what I mean? Like, so you got Memphis at what, number 3 in this draft? You know what I mean? Like, they're not getting a Cameron Boozer to come there without being the number 3 pick in the draft. You know what I'm saying? They're not getting anybody that's
so our
in
top
the league
2 markets.
New York and LA.
Our top 2 markets. New York and Brooklyn are 1 because they're both in the same city. Lakers and Clippers, number 2. Now, let's go 27 years back. How many championships between those 4 teams? The Lakers
27
got
years. That puts us
like
at 1999.
5, 6.
So the Lakers have 5.
6.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
they
probably
got 6.
it between them. That's probably it.
That's it. So these markets are gigantic. It's great. Chicago's 3. How many?
Yeah, but guess
they had in the last 25 years?
But guess
how many big 8?
Hey,
big free agents went to
no,
Chicago?
you don't. Don't you forget what happened from 2015 through 20. Don't you forget about that.
With who?
Don't try to leave the Warriors out of this.
Oh, I'm gonna get to them. I'm gonna get to like the Warriors market is 10. San Francisco, Boston's 9. So Chicago is a big market. They haven't landed a big free agent.
The market. They had the whole Bay.
Apparently, I guess Anthony Davis is from Chicago. I keep hearing that a lot, but I never hear him really say anything about. Like, it seems like guys from Chicago talk about being from Chicago a lot. He didn't go there. He didn't want to get a trade from New Orleans to Chicago. He wanted to go to
But
LA.
that was also because of the management. Like, I'm not saying that these things are independently exclusive of each other.
The small markets are. I get that you fall out of love as a player with the smaller market because if you're winning a lot in Memphis, if you're winning a lot in Minnesota, I'm pretty sure Ant loves Minnesota right now. But if he does 2 more years there, gets his extension, there's a couple more years, and they're out in the first or second round, he might fall out of love with the idea of like, all right, I don't like losing and I'm playing in a small market. So I understand, but like, that's just movement in general. People are going to want to move. But I don't think a big market.
But to Rez's point, the Knicks had the worst owner in the league. You know what I mean? Boston.
I think he's still the same owner, though.
I know, but he hired good people under him now. Leon Rose and those guys. Worldwide West, he hired them. You know what I mean? Boston is probably considered the most racist city in sports. You know what I mean? And then Chicago has had bad
great 4 days in Boston.
And then Chicago has had bad management, you know, ever since they told Phil Jackson, even if you go 82-0, you're not coming back. So I'm not making the point that large markets are going to win championships. That's not the point. That would be too simplistic and not true. But what I'm saying is they just get more bites at the apple. You know what I mean? Because the players are going to want to go there, whether that's endorsements, whether that's being on TV, whether that's importance or being talked about on ESPN and those type of things. You're not getting that in Sacramento. You're not getting that in, you know what I mean?
But that's the thing. I don't think, because I just went over this in my research class, is like causation and correlation and everything else.
Right.
I don't think the draft is the reason why the Utah Jazz don't win 44 games a year.
No, Jalen was a free agent. Jalen was a free agent because he took the discount.
Indiana's 21. I think if your team's managed properly, because it's basketball, can you put the ball in the hoop or can you not? Can you hire a coach and keep him or can you not? Can you hire a good GM? Can you make the right draft pick? Because a lot of times it's a matter of like, maybe Ace Bailey probably wasn't the pick for Utah right there. Maybe they could have gone with somebody else. But they picked Ace Bailey, and I don't think he looks anything like Dylan Harper. And that might be a difference of 2 to 4. But I don't think they got
30-point games this year.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what I'm saying. Like the draft order isn't indicative of your market size. It's just where the lottery balls fall. That's why
definitely.
I was so against the anti-tanking narrative and the tanking rules changes because there's not a lot of ground in the NBA to help the smaller teams get better. They don't get a perk to pay. So if we were worried about the small market, if we're looking at our teams 20 to 27, like, or we'll go 17 because that's like the last 10. So Cleveland, Sacramento, Charlotte, Portland, Indiana, San Antonio, Utah, Oklahoma City, Memphis, New Orleans, Milwaukee. Sprinkle those guys.
None of those teams getting free agents besides OKC.
So now you say, all right, cool, you're a small market.
And that's just because of the success that they have now.
And we understand the billboard aspect of, or the marquee aspect of having a marquee player. You guys are going to be able to offer X amount of percentage more than a big market team. So if the Lakers are offering, we'll just say Paul George, for example, because he's always been like a big free agent piece the last few years. The Lakers, you're a bigger market. You can only offer him 4 years, 160. Milwaukee, you can offer him 4 years, 175.
Exactly.
Like, give them, like, but the league would have to build that in. But the league doesn't build that in to allow for such a transition. Like with the NFL, you finish last, you draft first. We're going to give you your opportunity to rebuild your team. They don't say, oh, you didn't play your starting right guard in the last game, so you get penalized and your top 10 pick is now 7 to 9. It's like, no, you need to get this best player so we can put you, Las Vegas Raiders, on Monday Night Football against Kansas City, and the score is not going to be 35-0 at halftime. We need you competitive because we only get X amount of games per week to showcase our league.
Right.
But NBA is spoiled because they have hundreds of games to play and they treat it as such. That, we don't care about Orlando versus Brooklyn. You should. Brooklyn's a major market. It's East Coast. Orlando's a young team. You should want both of them to be good.
All right, so let me go into the past and bring it back. Okay. Yes, and you know what I'm saying? Because it's the same thing that I always say. Because in the NFL, I can draft Aaron Donald. But it don't matter if my quarterback can't complete a pass. We'll talk about Myles Garrett later. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But in the NBA, if I get my hands paused on Darren Peterson, that could change everything. You know what I mean?
That's just a draft position. That's not indicative of the market size.
No, it is indicative though. Like the draft is its own separate thing. But the thing is that you wouldn't get a Darren Peterson without a draft. So, like, yes, you still have to be lucky
I thought you should end up in that position. The rules. Yeah,
that's why. You still have to be lucky to end up in that position. No, we're not, because you know what I'm saying. Because
I don't. You think that you like the new change? That's my thing.
I don't. Okay. I don't like the new change.
Change should help the team. I think this change helps the narrative.
No, this is the problem. This is the problem.
I don't think it helps any actual basketball teams.
I don't like the change. What I think is, if y'all wasn't fucking around, I wouldn't have to do something like this. So it's the same thing with the 65-game rule. Like, if y'all weren't sitting out these nationally televised games and this was a national topic, then I wouldn't have to create a 65-game rule for you to win MVP. But so I'm not saying that I agree with it, but I'm just saying, like, if you didn't cause and effect.
The 65-game rule made sense because it was simple. Well, I mean, they did some waivers. I get it. All organizations have some level.
Well, I get it though. Luka had a baby, so I'm fine with that waiver.
I get it. So, but they drew a line in the sand because they had a problem. The problem was, I'm trying to sell Golden State versus the Knicks on a Wednesday, and Steph Curry's sitting out. That's a problem because I put the ticket prices at this percentage. You guys are causing me problems with tanking. I don't think what they did solved the problem for tanking, because the problem for tanking is we have no other recourse to add a player and get better. Yes, you should be able to get better GMs and develop players, so forth and so on. But like in the NBA, the only way I'm going to be able to get better is to hopefully get the top draft pick. So now, as a team, you're just taking that away. Like, yo, I don't have the horses. I don't like, and there's no relegation and everything else. If Brooklyn still won't have the horses to compete next year, they simply won't.
Who am I a fan of?
The Washington Wizards.
The Washington Wizards. So within the last 2 to 3 weeks of the regular season, the Wizards played the Bulls twice. So the Bulls ended up with the 4th pick. Obviously, Washington got the 1st pick. You know what I'm saying? Both of those games that Washington played the Bulls, they dug into their G League stash. You know, on top of trading for Anthony Davis and then not playing him at all this season, you know, once they got him, you know, on top of getting Trae Young and he was out for the first month that they had him, and they got rewarded with the #1 draft pick. Now, it was luck. Now, it was luck.
Tim Duncan? It takes luck, but how did San Antonio get Tim Duncan?
They probably tanked.
David Robinson was healthy for the last 2 weeks of the season. They didn't play him.
So that goes back, right? That goes back to it. So because I did something wrong 30 years ago, I should continue doing that wrong?
What pick was Kobe?
12 or 13?
13. So you just got to be able to find the talent where it is.
It's no, 100%. 100%.
Alex Carr and Ricochet went 1 and 2.
Well, I was just about to bring that up. So you can't get. Hold on. Let me say. Yeah. So you can't get the. So with this new rule, you can't get the #1 pick and draft in back-to-back years. So imagine that you got Sarr or Ricochet at #1. And then you were still bad, and then the next year you missed out on the #1 draft pick because you drafted Ricochet or Sarr.
That's the thing, and that is the bigger piece. I look at it like this. I think tanking. I think losing happens before tanking occurs. We talked about James Harden when he was in the locker room wearing a fat suit in Houston, and he said stuff at the press conference like, I can't win with these guys. He knows early in the season you can't win. Brooklyn had 5 picks last year, like the first round. None of them were top 5, and none of those guys probably had an ESPN highlight all year long. And that's unfortunate to get that many guys in one draft and it not work out. But that's not a tanking problem. That's just they were losing games. Indiana was down Halliburton. They moved Evan, what's the boy name that went to Milwaukee? Miles Turner. I keep saying Evan Turner. Miles Turner. They moved some pieces, and it was like, okay, we're gonna let these guys we have on the team play out and do.
And then you know what they did? They traded Mathurin at the midseason, and they got Zubac and sat him down for like a week.
and then it didn't work out. Like just the lottery balls will get you the results you want. So if I'm Adam Silver, I'm like, listen, personally, I would say this: I'm not changing the tanking rules because it is a lottery. It is no guarantee that if you get the #2 pick or the #3 pick, it's going to change your franchise. Because I know the guy that I just ordered a pair of his shoes the other day. He went #3 overall. Another guy went ahead of him, and that team's been cursed ever since. And the other guy is arguably the greatest of all time. And he went 3. So it's like it just what happens. These guys have to play, and you got to develop. I just think they legislated it to the point where now, if we think about okay, who was a terrible team last year?
So the Pelicans.
They're going to be terrible again. The Pelicans were terrible. Brooklyn was terrible. The Clippers are probably going to be awful. Sacramento is going to be awful.
No, Clippers will be fine.
Wizards. Are they going to keep Kawhi and the gang and everybody else?
I think
that's going to get broken up.
You know what? Side note, real quick. I was reading an article today. They said that Cleveland was actually interested in Drew Holiday, but they didn't feel like his offense was good enough, and that's why they went with James Harden. Bad management. But anyway,
that's bad management.
But but here we go.
Makes everybody around him better, but you got to know that. You have to know these things, and you.
So this is my problem. This is my thought, and this is so to answer your question. This is because I'm trying to think of all the different angles, and this is an angle why I don't like this rule. Because now, to some degree, I could argue, depending on who you are, all you did was move tanking from the top pick to the playoffs now, because now play-in teams are involved in this lottery. You know what I mean? So now if I'm a play-in team, hypothetically, I'm going to just use a team that was in the play-in this year. Let's use Portland. Let's use, well, no, because Charlotte's got good players, though.
But that's what I'm saying. Charlotte's going to be able to be in that little mix of that 7 to 10 with the potential of getting a 1, 2, or 3 pick or something because of the math, the way it works out. Whereas Indiana, okay, Sacramento's still going to be terrible. Brooklyn's going to be terrible. Memphis is going to be terrible. New Orleans is probably going to be terrible. And they're not even going to get a shot.
Memphis does draft good.
They're not even going to get a shot at getting one of these top guys in the 2027 draft.
Right, but what I'm saying is though, like if you're one of these play-in teams, you know what I mean, and you lose the play-in game and you get into the lottery, you know what I mean. So that's why I was using Portland as an example, because I'm just saying like, you know, Drew Holiday's another year older, you know what I mean. Donovan Clingan, you still have to figure out what you have with him. Shaden Sharp and Scoot Henderson, somebody's probably got to go because now you got to make room for Dame. Dame doesn't got much time left, right? So if I'm in a position where I'm like, hey, I could get this 8 seed and get swept by the Spurs, you know what I mean? Or I could lose and get a top 5 pick potentially. Like, so all you did was move the tanking to where you don't for sure need it to be.
Exactly. Like I said,
what I'm saying? So that's why I don't like it.
NBA didn't have a real problem with tanking. They had a tanking conversation that they treated like a problem. They tried to legislate it and they made it worse. The NBA having a low management was a real problem because people were actually sick of seeing 4 starters. Like, come on. Maybe. Like, if you have 5 starters on a team, and I buy a ticket for a game in January, and 4 to 5 aren't starting, that's right. A problem. But it was
100%. But
happening more often than thinking. Like
but
said,
if I'm a team like the Lakers,
addressing that problem, they address that problem with a little bit more. But the problem with
being logical though,
because
right?
These guys will play. They wouldn't play against the terrible teams. They would.
No, you're right. But that's what I'm saying. So being logical, right?
Philly,
I could probably argue
against Brooklyn.
I could probably argue, like if I'm the Lakers that had Anthony Davis, or I'm the Clippers with Kawhi, I could argue that maybe, I'm not saying this is true, but I could probably argue that my load management paid off in the playoffs because you were here, you know what I mean? Like you made it through the playoffs without being hurt, whatever it might be. So I'm sure that there's a way that teams were looking at it, not to cheat the game per se, but it was just like, hey, you know, like.
But with load management, I think the teams with load management, like, yo, just have him sit out a couple of practices. Like he knows basketball. So that was a real problem that the NBA was having, was that guys you would put a face on the marquee and he'd be wearing a Balenciaga hoodie on the sideline. Tanking was not an NBA problem. It wasn't even a fan problem because fans didn't care, because fans didn't go to those games because the team sucked. No one in Brooklyn was like, oh, I'm so upset that the Nets are tanking. They just didn't go to the games. They were upset that I would buy a ticket.
Right, and that's part of Adam Silver's hang-up, is that I need these seats filled.
Well, just drop the price of $35 at the WNBA games. You can sell at the arena, and you can still sell them hot dogs for $18.
And you know, and like the thing is, like, so the thing is, right, is that there's going to be bad teams. Like we talked about this, just like you.
But they're punishing them no matter what. No matter how
but just like, but just
try.
like.
If
but that's the thing.
Bottom three, you're
but that's
punished,
the difference.
no matter
but
how
that's,
hard
but that's
you
the
try.
difference. That's the difference because you brought up the NFL, right? So generally speaking, we probably think that the Arizona Cardinals are going to be bad this year. You know what I mean? Like, you know, Kyler Murray's gone.
Nothing you can do about it.
You know what I mean? Like, right. But the difference is that when you turn on the football game, you're going to see maximum effort from everybody on that field. And they're going to beat somebody that they shouldn't beat. Right. But that's what I'm saying.
You have to because you can't be passive on a football field.
Right.
Win
but
or
in the
lose,
NBA,
you still gotta play
but in the NBA, if I have a perfectly healthy team, no, I know, but if I have a perfectly healthy team, and you came here to see Ace Bailey, you came here to see Keontae George or whatever, like, you know, you came here to see Halliburton, whoever it might be, and then I sat them down with a month left in the season. If it was 2 weeks left in the season, cool. Last week of the season, cool. Just like you don't go to school the last week of school. But if I'm sitting you down a month out, I don't know what to call it but tanking. You know what I'm saying? Like you just doing it just to do it.
I understand that it existed. My issue is that the rule change didn't fit the actual tank, like the outrage of it. Like I was saying, I understand like tanking existed, but I didn't think it existed to the point where you have to come up with the rule for it. And now, no matter what, there will be a team that is 28th, 29th, and 30th in the league. No matter how hard
you know what's funny about that? You know what's funny about that? And then I'll wrap it up with this. If Adam Silver or whoever didn't make some kind of change, whatever that change was, then in 5 years, 3 years, whatever the time might be, and people are like, yo, I'm not watching this garbage no more. People going to say Adam Silver fell asleep at the wheel.
I think the low management was a bigger problem than tanking. And hence why I think that rule makes more sense.
No, you know what? Rule. You know what? That might be correct. That might be correct. But that doesn't mean that the other one is not a problem. I think, like, you know what I mean?
I think
like I might have the flu or I might have the cold. One is worse than the other, but I don't want either one of them.
Your idea for me made the most sense. The bottom 14 teams, you put 14 balls in there, and whatever comes out, comes out. So if you are 17 through 30, that's 14, right? So 17, 18, 19, 20.
13, so there's 13 teams left.
Yeah, so 17 through 30, all of you go in this little pot. Like, I would have made the draft lottery a little bit more difficult. But because, like, no matter what, no matter how hard these guys play, there's going to be teams that are going to be bottom three. So for them to, like, have a disadvantage over a team that is 26, 25, or 24 out of the 30. Like, it kind of ruins the essence of helping another team rebuild, because I feel like the NBA's objective should be helping this other team rebuild. And if you want to punish tank, like, listen, you need to get to here or you're going to have a very limited opportunity to rebuilding. But
you're terrible. To this,
but I'm going to let a team that made the play-in get a guy that's draft a guy better and be even better than you next year.
Well,
it's like, yo, dog, what do you expect me to do? How am I going to get to the top 12 of the league?
According to these rules, Adam Silver can change odds. He can take draft picks from teams. So we'll see what happens. We'll see.
Hence why, like, that's the problem. That's why, they didn't have a real problem, because they didn't come up with a real solution. This
is only a 3-year thing. This is only a 3-year thing, and then after 3 years,
what's the stipulations on the 65 game?
They're going to vote on it. As far as
the 65 game thing doesn't have stipulations on it. It's locked in because it made sense. When it makes sense, you keep it. It doesn't make sense. That's why you have to do a trial period.
Well, no, because I truly don't think that you can stop tanking. You know what I'm saying? You can shift where the tank goes and all that stuff. But at the same time, like, you have to, as a commissioner, as a boss, whatever the case may be, I have to show you that there are consequences for lack of effort, for constant mediocrity, for not caring to be better. You know what I mean? That's my job, is to put the best product on the court.
Yeah.
Now, I might make some missteps to get there, but I got to do something.
Sure. Yes, and to Rez's point, he was like, it's not the NBA's responsibility to help a team rebuild, but they understand the small market, and they instituted the rule that allowed your current team to offer you an extra year on these supermax contracts. So they understand that is incumbent upon them as a league to help the smaller market teams or the smaller teams keep their players. So in that same vein, they should be in the same position. Like, hey, how do we help these teams get an opportunity to get better players? That's all I'm saying. The management has to figure it out, but I don't like the NBA kind of taking that opportunity away. Even if you play terrible, it's like, hey, it's what it is. Someone's going to be awful. Somebody's going to lose a lot of games.
Yes,
that's just what
and that's what I'm saying. But that's the overall thing. There's
Whether
always going to be a bad team. You know what I mean? Just like I brought up last time we had this conversation, I brought up the injury thing. Like, what if I'm only bad because my best player got hurt or whatever the case may be? So there's there's those lines of subjectivity that get in the way. But we wouldn't be here.
I like your rule with the one. Every team gets one lottery ball. They hit that little thing, and there's 14 balls in there, and they go from 14 to 1. Live on TV.
There you go. Out, but hey,
14 Charlotte, 13 Sacramento, and that's it.
Yeah, so I woke up today, and the NFL said it's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without a good trade to talk about. So not only did we get a trade, we got two major trades. But of course, we're going to start in LA. So the Los Angeles Rams get the one and only Myles Garrett from the Cleveland Browns for Jarrett Verse, a first rounder in the upcoming draft, a second in next year's draft, and a third in the draft after that. I am so sorry, Brock Purdy. You know what I'm saying? And they talking about, like, hey, look at Aaron Donald. Look at Aaron Donald up here working out again. Is he coming back too? Reaction is illogical.
All right, so the NFL, like, listen, they just know how to win the spotlight. They just know how to do it. We are 2 days away from the NBA Finals, and I'm guessing tomorrow this is going to lead more shows as well as people get more information. Just another reason to keep talking about it, and more speculation that Aaron Donald's coming back, because someone talked about he posted a video 3 days ago of him working out. I was like, he always works out. He loves posting those videos. He said he doesn't miss the grind. I don't know if he comes back. It would be unfair if that happened. Yeah, that would just be unfair. But, I mean, I'm trying to understand the perspective of Cleveland.
Oh, I can tell you the perspective of Cleveland.
Are they getting rid of all the money they owe people? So is Deshaun next? Maybe. Or are they trying to go cheaper and younger? If that's the case, I get it. This is one of those rare cases where I think both teams won. I like it more for the Rams this year, Cleveland 2027 and going forward. Because I think the Rams this year, 17 games with Myles Garrett, and looking at 3 playoff games, I imagine they're probably going to get a bye. I think 17 games with Myles Garrett, they could be number 1 seed. But you figure 17 to 20 games with the potential Super Bowl.
They were a player or two away from going to the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I think
the last 2 years,
2026, 2027, Los Angeles Rams with Myles Garrett last year with Matthew Stafford. I know he sounded like some extension, but you know how your body's going to feel at the end of the season when you're pushing 40. But if Cleveland moves off of Deshaun Watson this week, or however they can make that work, and they go young, Shador, Dylan Gabriel, the running backs, the young defensive core, and just say, hey, go out there and play. We'll find out where the chips fall, and we're going forward this way. Like, as long as they decide on their direction and it's clear, then it makes sense. But if they keep Deshaun Watson and just to pay him and the rest of his $100-something million, he's probably still owed, but get rid of Myles Garrett, I'm like, then it's a silly move.
Well, see, like I was thinking of it, and what I came up with was, if I'm the Cleveland Browns, Myles Garrett didn't have to re-sign with me last year when he did. You know, he had the opportunity. You know, people were saying, oh, hey, Philly's going to call and all this kind of stuff. And they took care of him. But then Jarrett Verse is 5 years younger. And, you know, I look at this as, I'm sending you to a contender. You've been so great to us. You're the only reason people talk about us in a positive light. So I'm going to send you away, because by the time we're good again, Myles Garrett going to be our age. You know what I'm saying? So like, so even if you get rid of Deshaun Watson, right, and you stuck with Shador for this season, you know what? You're 5-12, 6-11 at best, maybe in that division. You know what I'm saying? Now next year you got the draft of quarterbacks. Then I gotta wait a year. I gotta wait a year, potentially let this quarterback develop, because my division didn't change.
That's why they got to get rid of Deshaun Watson and let Shador play, because you can't halfway do it. Give Shador 7 games at the end of the year and be like, you know what? You're gonna sit. We're gonna play Gabriel so we can get this top 5 pick and get one of these next. I think it would be on par for Cleveland to not do it right.
And that's why I like the move, because then you add the picks onto it. You know what I mean? The Browns are like, just like we were talking about the Raiders during the NFL draft, the Browns are not one piece away. You know what I mean? So now I got another first rounder for next year. You know what I mean? And I get a second and a third in the years after that. So I have foundational, I'm able to make this work and get better, because Mason Graham is only in year 3 coming up. You know, maybe 2. Might be it's 2 or 3. Schlesinger just won 2. Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, because he went at the. Yeah.
He won Rookie of the Year. You getting Jarrett Verse, you know what I mean? Sampson is coming off, you know, a good season. Your lead running back, Judkins, is off an injury.
Tight end.
You know,
So the rookie they had a tight end.
Yeah, Harold Fannin.
Like, they got to get a key to Shador to see if this is going to work.
And they drafted some receivers this year in the draft too. So like you're putting the parts in place. You just need the head of the snake, the quarterback. But I can't just hold on to Myles Garrett just to hold on to Myles Garrett. And I think my defense can still be good without Myles Garrett. But the other thing that I wanted to give the Browns,
that the Raiders should have made with Max Crosby 2 years ago.
And yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say, something similar. But basically, from the standpoint of, there's certain players in sports that the media kills you if you even think about trading them. And I think that was the initial reaction people had when they saw this, was the Browns are trading Myles Garrett. Are they crazy? And it's like, well, what are they going to do with him? You want Myles Garrett to be there for another 4-13 season?
Because they got Jarrett Verse right back. Like, that's, for me, if they would have done this before the draft and didn't get Jarrett Verse and said that they were going to go get one of these guys that were in the draft, I'm like, I don't know about that. You're giving up a sack leader to get maybe a guy out of draft, but seeing Jarrett Verse on the field and getting him back in the trade, I think they did a good job with the trade. And I don't want to say both sides win, but all the good business deals, like both people have to lose something. So The Rams lost their young defensive lineman to get an older guy who's more productive.
Like the Rams might have already
lost their older guy and got a productive young guy. So like it balances out. It's just
for the Browns,
now you have to do everything else right.
For the Rams, it can't get no better because you might have been the Super Bowl favorite before you even got Myles Garrett. You know what I mean? Because now, Philly.
And Seattle got fleeced.
Yeah.
Seattle lost a lot of pieces.
Philly lost A.J. Brown today. You know what I mean? Chicago, can they do it again another year? Micah Parsons probably not going to start the season. Detroit got to bounce back. You got the 49ers, like at the very least, you think a player or two might not make it through the season. Mahomes is going to be slow to start the year.
You got a couple players that might not start the season. I don't know. Fred Warner just broke his ankle, so I imagine that he would be ready to go, but it's probably a few players that won't start the season from last year.
Buffalo still got to win the big game. Yeah, Buffalo still got to win the big game.
They got to get a wide receiver that can make plays happen. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So if you're the Rams, you were already in the catbird seat or whatever the bird's eye view, whatever the old saying is. They were already there.
Catbird seat, yeah.
Yeah, they were already there, and you just added the best defensive player in the league. On top of you still got Kobe Turner, you still got Braden Fisk. You know what I mean? You went out and got Kansas City's corners. You went and got their secondary basically. So at worst, you probably going to have a top 5 offense, and I would say at worst a top 6 defense. So like this is dying on your sword, as people say. But the Eagles, they traded A.J. Brown to New England for a first round pick in this draft and a 5th rounder in the next draft. What do you think?
I saw somebody say something along the lines on one of these social media groups that basically A.J. Brown kind of soiled the market for trade, which is probably true. But it was very clear for 2 years, even before they won the Super Bowl, that Philly just wasn't a place for him, which is fine. Like, I think you just kind of, everybody doesn't get along forever. Winning doesn't cure all. I'm not sure him and Jalen were on the same page. And I remember I saw a clip about a week ago, and was Jalen, they asked him something about the A.J. Brown trade while he was taking a sip of water. And then he kind of coughed at the end. It was like, that's a hell of a question to take a sip on, right? Jalen doesn't make jokes. He's not a whimsical guy. He's not a quirky guy. So he probably just, I'm sick of this dude. I'm sick of him. Because you got to keep in mind, there's probably a lot of conversations that happen in the locker room, and they're a very tight, well-run locker room, a lot of veterans that probably don't come out. It was probably a lot of conversations on the sideline, and just because kind of like T.O. when he kind of wore quarterbacks then. But in the same sense, from T.O.'s perspective, he's like, yo, the best career numbers you had was with me. Throw me the ball. And A.J. Brown's like, yo, dog, you throwing the ball to me makes it easier for everybody else. Just throw me the ball. Hey, OC, get me the ball, because other than that, I'm just doing cardio. And I think it kind of just wear thin. Vrabel is probably the coach that can, I'm going to say handle him, because that's
he has history with him.
I want to use. He has a history. I think it's probably a mutual respect. And New England needs A.J. Brown. I'm projecting Jamar Chase level targets next season, and a big year for New England. I think the Eagles will be fine. They have enough weapons. They have everything they need. They just need to keep. They just have to have everything has to be on the up and up mentally in Philly, because I think it's a pressure city to play football in. It's a pressure region to be a professional athlete in any sport, because the fans are on you, like they're on. It's like when I talk about the sports complex where the games are. It's not like, oh, the Philadelphia Eagles play way outside of the city in Philly, and then this team. No, everybody's right there. all the fans of all the sports, you talk about the Philly tuxedo, do with the Flyers hat on, Eagles jersey, and a Phillies hoodie. Like they wear it all at once. So they will stop you in the grocery store. Like, yo, why you in here buying fruit? You need to be out here running routes, catching passes. I saw the guy talking about when it was a house fire in Philly. And he was like, yo, they was just throwing kids out the window. I was catching them, unlike Aguilar. Like, dog, he was talking about how he was saving children from a burning house. A guy was throwing babies out the window. He was like, I was catching them, but not like Aguilar was. I'm like, yo, you kidding me? You talk about saving lives, but that's what kind of fans Philly fans are. So it was like, long as they can keep it together mentally, then they'll be all right.
No, I think Philly's fine. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, generally speaking, you don't want to lose somebody as talented as A.J. Brown. But just going back to 2 years ago, or maybe it was 3 now, the year that they lost to Tampa in the first round of the playoffs, like, they started 11-1, and then it just all came tumbling down. And they won the Super Bowl, but then last season, you know, it was just all over the place. So I think that having that out of your locker room puts everybody at a little bit of ease, you know, like you're not looking over your shoulder waiting for the next drama, for the next comment, the next clip, the next, you know, soundbite that people are going to end up asking you about.
Because when they would lose, they would go to him first, because normally when they lost, he wasn't, I won't say he didn't have a good game. No one had a real impact on the game. If you lose a game, you lose a game. But his stats especially would be highlighted and the microphone would be in his face. So they could go 13-4, and after every loss, it would have been a mic in his face. I think that's another thing. He can go to New England, not have to deal with that.
Yeah, so I think from that standpoint, if I'm a Philly fan, you know, I'm happy because now we just put our team out on the field free, just go play football. You know, if I'm New England, obviously you feel great. Because the one Achilles heel that New England's had in forever was when the last time New England had a wide receiver consistently that you had to worry about.
Required a double team.
Yeah, I mean, if they had A.J. Brown last year, you
Randy
know what I'm saying?
Moss.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But you know, so I think if you're New England, you know, he has the history with Vrabel. So theoretically, you think that Vrabel knows how to get through to him. And you know, they know how to talk to each other. They kind of understand each other. So I think that helps because you're also throwing him, depending on his diva attitude, you're throwing him on another young quarterback. You know what I mean? A quarterback that's younger than Jalen Hurts, a quarterback that's coming off the Super Bowl. So now, you know, maybe you have that conversation of, hey, you saw what we could do without you. You have the ring. Let's just come together and make this work, Dragon Ball Z fusion style, right? And let's go win a Super Bowl. So I think that there are times in life where, you know, you need a fresh start. Like, you know, playing for the Eagles in this edition of the Eagles, you feel like you have a chance to win the Super Bowl every year. You know what I mean? So he could have gone to a lot worse places than New England. So here's your chance to show what Jalen kept you from, you know, whatever you thought Jalen kept you from accomplishing. Now you got a quarterback that just finished second in MVP. Let the good times roll.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we will be back.
Like, listen.
Yeah. It just is what it is.
We'll see what happens. I mean, listen, it was bound to happen. It was inevitable. I think they should have made the deal last year.
I agree. You know, but yeah, so we'll be back on Friday for game 2 of the NBA Finals. Of course, game 1 on Wednesday. So we'll have reaction to that and much, much more as we go around the world of sports. He is the world-renowned, world-famous, cool, calm, and collected. Born in Texas, raised in BA. Do not tell this man nothing about Old Dominion, even though he represents New Jerusalem at this time. So you would think, but he's out here with Nick everything. He goes by the name of Mr. Logical.
Bandwagon has some seats I hopped on.
Don't bring feelings to a fact fight. Thank you, sir.
Don't do it.
You know, and down here in the Alamo, you know, saying honking on the Riverwalk, going left so much you thought I was southpaw. Tell Shakur Stevenson watch his mouth and watch for the hook. You know what I'm saying? I am your unorthodox statistician 2-5. This is Sports Reports Exhorted. Thank you for joining us. We love y'all so much. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate, free things, good things, liquid death. Y'all know the rest. Say less, say more. Holla back. Sports Reports Exhorted.
No gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout.
It's about to go down.